Naija YouTube channel. I want to say thank you to all of my subscribers. Thank you all for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your love, for your support. If you are new to the channel, you are highly and very welcome. If you have not subscribed already, please subscribe. I would appreciate if you will do that. And then like this video to make me know you appreciate what I did. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to cut and sew this short BUBU dress so you can see it is a very beautiful dress. That's what we're going to learn how to cut and sew today. If you want to register for my online classes, you can see my number scrolling through the screen. Send me a message on WhatsApp. I'll give you the details of all of the classes we have presently available. Okay, so let's just get started. Okay guys, so you can see I folded out my fabric, so I'm going to explain how I folded it out. So I have two here, so it is folded into four. This is one, two piece, this is another two. So I'm using 26 inches. That's the length of my sleeve. So what I mean by the length of the sleeve, that's where the sleeve got to. So this is my center back. You just put your tape here on your center back and then measure it as long as you want up to where you want your sleeve to be. So you can see it that way. The next thing, we're going to add our measurement. We're going to add our measurement. So I'm going to add all of my lines now. I'll add my bust line. So I'm making use of 10 inches for my bust, and then from my bust to my waist. So it depends on where you want the cuff to be. So from the bust to the waist, I'm making use of 18 inches. So that is where my kaftan curve will be, or my BUBU curve, 18. And then from this 18 point, I'm going to mark 10 inches here, or 9 inches. I'll use that for as my hip line. And then the full length of the dress is 40 inches. So this is my 40 inches. And then I'm just add about 1 or 2 inches for my allowance. So I hope you understand what I just did now. So the next thing now, we're going to start measuring. The next thing we're going to do, from this point, I'm going to come to this point here. I'll mark 1.5 inch down, and then from this 1.5, I'm just going to float it into my neckline. That's, I'll rule it as a straight line. You can make use of your ruler, just slope it inwards that way. And then we're cutting the back and the front together. The front has a slit, so that will help to put it on. So from this point now, come here. Now I'm going to mark my curve. That's my BUBU curve. Before I mark the BUBU curve, let's leave the BUBU curve. Let's work on our hip measurement, because the whole of this top part is a free measurement. So it's the hip part that is a little bit slim, and then the down. So the hip measurement that I'm using for this dress is 42 inches. So you divide it into 4, you mark it, and then I'm going to add ease. I'll add ease as much as 4 inches, between 3 inches. 3 inches is okay. I'll add 3 inches ease to it. So you can see I just added an extra 3 inches to my hip measurement. So that same measurement, what I'm going to do, I'll mark what I have here, and then I'll add it to the down part of my dress. And then from this point, I'm just going to connect it with a straight ruler like this. Connect it with a straight ruler. So that is how simple it is. And then from this point now, we're just going to make a big circle. So I always like saying this, you just create like a big curve down here to this point like this. So you can see what we have. So after creating the big curve, so you can see we already have our BUBU. So you just blend it into your hip part. So this BUBU is just going to be tight around the hip. Then every other part will be loose. So the next thing, you are going to create your sleeve opening here. Now, so it depends on how wide you want your sleeve to be. So for mine, I'm just going to go with 8 inches for the sleeve opening. If you notice, I think 8 inches is even too big, since it is not a free sleeve. If you want it to be tight, that's if you want it to be tight, so you can just go ahead and measure your round sleeve measurement. So mine is about 10 inches, but if I increase it, it's going to be about 12 inches. So instead of me using 8, if I use 8, it's going to be open, but if I want it tight, so that's what I just did. So if I use 6 inches, it's going to be tight. So I'll just add 1 inch to it as my allowance. So when I'm cutting now, I'm just going to leave this point like this. When I'm stitching, I'll leave from here to here. I'll not stitch it, and then we're just going to stitch here down. You can see how simple this BUBU is. The next thing now, we're going to cut out the neckline. So like I said, we're cutting the back and the front neckline together. So I'll come here. When you want to cut the neckline, depends on how wide you want your neckline to be. I'm just going to come here. I'll use 3.5 inches wide. So this is 3.5 inches. I'll mark the 3.5 inches here. And then for the down part, depends on how deep you want it to be. So for the down part, I'll go ahead. I'm just going to use about three. I'll use 3 by 3 for the length. Yeah, 3 by 3. That's for the front neckline. So that's the front neckline. So the back one is going to be high. So for that back one, I'll use 1 inch like this. I'll just curve it in like this. So this is for the back neckline. So after cutting out the front neckline, we're now going to add our slit to it. So you can see it is a very simple process. So now we're going to go ahead now. We cut out what we cut both back and front together. So when cutting, you can just add a little bit of allowance to it also. So you can trim that off later or you just cut directly on the lines. But for those of you that have been following me, you know I don't like cutting directly on my chalked lines. So now we'll cut out the back neckline like this. And then I'll cut out. Okay, before we cut out the front, let's mark the depth. That's the key hole. That's the lines here. How long it's going to be. So when you want to cut this, you have to put some things into consideration. So for mine, since I don't want it to be too open, I'm just going to use 7.5. So I'll mark 7.5 here, like this. So from this point to this point now, I have about 4 inches, which is okay. I don't want it to be too wide. So now I'll cut off this point like this. So guys, so you can see how simple and easy this BUBU is to cut. So I finished cutting that already. So the down part, I'll just take this off. Okay. So the next thing now, so I'll keep the back piece on the side. And then for the front piece, I'm going to mark that design that we have on the sleeve area. So that design depends on how you want it. You can just mark it and then just cut it out. So for this, I'm just going to cut, I'll just curve mine like this. And then I'll use my fabric. Since I'm not making it of a pattern, I'll use my fabric to try and see if I can get out the chalk. If I can get it to stay. Okay guys, so for the design on the neckline, we are going to ask for the plankets. We're going to measure now. So I'm going to come like this. So you can make it however long you want. So for this, I'm going to use 16 inches. So the 16 inches, and then from the neckline point, I'm going to come down by 2 inches. So I'm just going to connect it like this. So if you notice, it came above the slit. So I'll mark it here like this. So this is okay. I'm just trying to put it, and then I'm going to take my fabric like this. So you can see it is a transparent fabric, and then I'll place it here. So I'm going to mark it now. So I think I'll get another color of chalk to mark it to make it easier so you'll be able to see it now properly. Okay, so because my fabric is transparent, I'm able to see it. So you get a transparent fabric or you use a pattern paper to do this, or a tracing wheel. So you can see what I have. So I'll mark it like this. And then the neckline. And then the shoulder line. So you can see what I have. So I'll cut. And then when cutting this, you can add 1 inch below it. So you don't cut it directly. Okay, so you can see this is how it's going to stay on the neckline, just like what we have on the picture. So the next thing now is to transfer that to my fabric. This, I'll transfer it to my crepe. So I'll fold my crepe into 2. And then I'll place this like this. Okay, so I'll cut out now. So for the neckline, I'll just cut it out, trace it, I'll trim it out more later. So I'll open it up now. Here's what we're going to have. So you can see that it looks like what we have on the picture, right? Okay. So I've not cut out the neckline properly. So the next thing, I'll show you how we're going to stitch this. Okay guys, so to stitch this, we'll stitch the neckline around and then stitch here. So this is what I'm trying to say to you, so you can see how it is. So I'll take it back now. I'll stitch here like this, stitch here, and then stitch here. Then I'll turn it. If you notice it is on the wrong side, then I'll cut this point open and then flip it to the front, and then we'll iron it down. So I'll go and stitch it and then bring it back for you to see. Okay guys, so you can see, so after sewing, like I said, this is the inside. This was how we did the stitching from the back, you understand? And then you turn it to your right side and then you bring it out. So when you bring it out like this, the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to stitch this point down. Then I'm going to stitch it down. But before I stitch it down, I'm going to use my hemming gum to secure it down. Just to make sure that I fold in the edges. After folding the edges, I'll use my hemming gum and then I'll stitch it down flat. So after stitching it down flat, I'll join the back and the front together just like I explained. I'll show you how to join it now. So you take the back piece like this, you place it like this, and then we're going to stitch, and then you stitch the shoulder. So after stitching the shoulder, once you get to this point now, you stitch it, you stop here. This is our sleeve opening. I'll leave this point, I will not stitch this point, and then this part, I'll stitch this part with 1/4 of an inch down to the hem, and then I'll hem the down part of my dress. So for the sleeve part, I'm just going to just cut out a little piece of fabric, and then just use it to pipe the edge just to make it neat of my sleeve. So I'll go ahead, I'll finish it, and then I'll place it on the mannequin for you to see how our midi bubu looks like. Okay guys, so at the end of the day, you can see how our midi bubu looks like, our midi cow kaftan. So it actually came out really fine. So thank you so much. If you find this video helpful, please hit on the like button. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe to Stylish Naija YouTube channel. Thank you so much guys. I'll see you in my next video.